be seated. I am so glad to be worshiping with you all again on this beautiful, not freezing cold Sunday morning. I'm always glad for the mornings that are not in the 30s when I wake up. So I'm very happy this morning. I'm going to move this. A little footstool down there I kept kicking. Will you join me in prayer? God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you. For you are our rock and our Redeemer, and we are glad to be with you in this hour. I'll never forget the morning that my wife, Kelly, was running the half marathon in Indianapolis back when we lived there. That was an interesting choice for that to do. But it was November 1st. And we had to be at the start line by 6 a.m. Now, I'm a good husband, or as I like to tell myself that. So I drove her downtown, walked and waited with her near the start line. As the race got going, I got cold because it was November 1st in Indianapolis. Now, the good thing about downtown Indy is that there's a great mall downtown where I could go and just sit around and wait, and probably find a nice, comfortable bench to sit on. But when I got into the mall, there was even better than a bench. You know those massage chairs at malls and airports? Well, I found one of those, and like a child pumping coins into a claw machine, so did I sit there pumping coins into the massage machine. It was lovely. The lights weren't fully on yet because the mall wasn't really open. And the music was a nice, quiet, adult contemporary. Until all of a sudden, the bright fluorescent lights come fully on, the adult contemporary music is interrupted, and with less than a second of transition, NSYNC's Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays came on. The transition from dim light to all of the fluorescence, from quiet, smooth jazz to a loud and very silly Christmas song comes on. And that NSYNC song, it's really bad. Like, I love it, but it's really bad. It has no meaning to it. If you read the lyrics or listen to the lyrics, there's no poetry to it. It's just, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and something about the joy filling the room up to the ceiling. Okay. You know, I do equally love that song and hate it because it comes from my time in high school, and it's every bit the early 2000s. As I was sitting in that comfortable massaging confusion that I was in, I looked at my phone when I am reminded of the time and the date, 9:01 a.m., November 1st. That's when the transition happens in malls, by the way. For as long as humans have been around, there has been music. And we all know that gift is a gift that we all know and understand. We call it the international language. If we hear a sound and a rhythm combination that we like, we know what to do. We dance to it a little bit. We all have our favorite music and memories that are connected to that music. Whether it's driving and we hear our favorite song coming on the radio, it brings a smile to our face, and our arms move forward to turn up the volume just a little. Or it's when that song that we haven't heard in a few decades finds its way to our ears. It reminds you of that special someone from high school. It sparks that memory of what it meant to be young, in love, and very confused about what reciprocal love is. Or it makes you move in a way that you haven't moved in years. Well, almost like you used to. Or it makes you become someone who you aren't as you step into the emotions of the musicians and what their lyrics and what the music is making you feel. Or it's a song that taps into your more sad emotions, reminding us of deceased family members or of times long past. Or maybe, as is the case with many people of faith, that it is the music of their faith that's what sparks a lot of these emotions and memories. My wife is the pastor down at Saguaro in Tucson, and last year we lost a member of our congregation to Alzheimer's. Jan was a very sweet and mild-mannered person. She was very small and petite, and she loved singing in the choir. And as the Alzheimer's progressed, she became more and more confused about her surroundings, and then totally taking her memory, and then losing her words. It was awful to watch. But her incredibly loyal and loving husband continued to bring her to parties and church. I remember last December, we were at a member's house for a horse-drawn carriage caroling party. And there was Jan, terrified in her confusion about getting onto the carriage. She had been on these carriages for decades at the exact same party, and as we helped her get on, she screamed in terror. As she sat down and we started to sing, the light in her eyes changed. Her spirit went from fear and confusion to joy. And as she would come to church on Sunday mornings, there were similar moments. As we would stand to sing hymns, she would start to dance just a little bit. And she would sing every single lyric to those hymns. In the midst of darkness, it was glorious to see the light in Jan's eyes come back. All because of the joy she has when she sings songs about her faith. You know, it's quite often that I do find myself singing to myself. Not necessarily those popular radio songs, but much like Jan, the songs I grew up learning in church and learning at camp and in seminary. It lifts my soul to sing those songs, not just reminding me of God's love, but it takes me back to my home church, into that old sanctuary where I learned so much about what it meant to be a faithful follower of Jesus, and where I first learned of God's love and what it means to be a part of a faithful community. It reminds me of those times in my seminary weekly chapel services where I would hear more edgy versions of hymns with changes to the lyrics. I'll just go ahead and give you all a tease of one. The first time I heard Amazing Grace, where someone switched a D to an S, making the lyrics, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saves a wretch like me. Reminding me that grace is not a one-time experience, but an ongoing one. But nevertheless, that is a sermon for another day. And so it's no surprise to me that Mary's reaction to the confirmation of the news that she is to bear the Son of God, the Messiah, her reaction was to sing. Sometimes we need to be reminded of Jesus' humanity. And sometimes we need to remember that Mary was human. Now, the Protestant church doesn't venerate Mary the way in which Orthodox or more Catholic congregations do, seeing her as Theotokos, or the Mother of God. This veneration lifts Mary to an above-human level, in which for many Christians around the globe, that is the logical step for them to take in their faith journey. But we still need to be reminded that Mary carried human feelings, emotions, pain, and suffering. She knew humor. She had times in her life where life wasn't easy. She gave birth, one of the most human experiences that one can go through. Even after her child's birth, she would, with all of the promises that she knew about his life, she would still experience more pain around her son's life as it rolled along. Because if Mary isn't human, it would be hard for us to relate to her. I think Mary might have felt on that day, amongst joy and confusion, was nervousness. Nervous because she was just given a huge task, one that no other person before her was given, to birth and raise the Messiah. I wonder if this song of Mary's was more about singing to get the nerves out. You know, we've all seen those scary movies where a character is walking down that dark and damp hallway with a flashlight shaking in their hand, and out of nervousness, they just start to sing a tune. Some of Mary's words that she sings might infer that maybe that was part of her experience that day. I mean, wouldn't you be a little nervous? Up until this moment, and remember, all that Mary knew about God was pre-Jesus. And God chose her to bring forth the Messiah. Now, if that combination of two things makes you even the slightest bit nervous, well, you might be a human. The nervousness of messing that up, not raising him right, or maybe the kid gets hurt, or maybe Mary is afraid that along the road she'll leave him behind somewhere. That one happened. But maybe she was nervous that as she sang, God has shown strength with God's arm. God has scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. Maybe she was afraid she would become too proud of the placement that God has gifted her, becoming too proud of who her son would become. It's quite often that we find ourselves singing to calm our nerves. It's why parents would sing us lullabies, and why parents still sing lullabies. It's why there's music being played in surgery rooms. It helps silence those negative voices in our heads. It helps to calm our nerves. Because at the end of the day, music sparks joy. It's why we pay a lot of money to go hear people play music. But most of Mary's song is about the goodness of God and being in the joy that God provides. And so I think that this nervousness is just a part of her going through the human range of emotions. And we have romanticized Mary's song and made it seem as though this was some beautiful sonnet, that Mary was some amazing songbird that could only be portrayed by Judy Garland. And who knows? Maybe she was. But really, I think that this romanticization of Mary does a disservice to her. You see, her singing didn't have to be beautiful. It didn't have to be a perfect sonnet or poem. It didn't have to have perfect majors and minor thirds and notes and rhythms. It just had to be hers. The song and the singing just had to come from her heart. When I was growing up in the church, we had youth deacons and youth elders. And I remember going to those trainings on how it is that we would serve up and down the aisle, how we would stand behind the table, and how we would turn on microphones. Real logistical stuff. When one of my friends in youth group asked our youth pastor, "Can you write my prayers for me? I don't know how to pray," he asked. My youth pastor's response was, "Nope. I can't write your prayers for you. They don't have to be long. They don't have to use long words or even the right words. It just has to be from your heart. Your prayers just need to be yours, and they need to be about your relationship with God. Even if you're not happy with God right now, trust me that God can handle all of it. I'm not going to write your prayers for you." Now, I don't know if this brought my friend any peace in that moment. I mean, we were two super awesome, cool dudes that didn't have a conversation afterwards about our feelings and emotions. You know, we had stupidity and nonsense to attend to. But it brought me great peace to hear this. So I think this is what Mary is doing. I don't think she wrote these words down. I don't even know if a first century impoverished woman could read or write back then. I don't think she wrote a melodic tune with, bars and scores of music that would withstand the test of time like Mariah Carey's would. This was her freestyle to calm her nerves as she stepped into this new role, not only as a mother, but the mother of Jesus, and all that would entail. But also singing to express her deep joy in the excitement of what was to come, not only for herself as an expected mother, but for the promises that she was told about what her child would come to be and do. We all have these songs that we sing when we need that extra bit of strength, that extra reminder that, yeah, we got this. That song that pumps us up for whatever big task we have ahead of us. Or that song that we sing to provide ourselves with encouragement and resilience. That one that reminds us that even when we are on the roller coaster of life, when we're living our lives not only for ourselves but for the furthering of God's commonwealth, that it may be raining right now, but that's okay. Happiness will roll back around. Even in the storms, the confusion, the chaos, the wilderness of this life, music brings us joy. And it's why we as an American culture have loved these following lyrics sung by Gene Kelly. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun is in my heart, and I'm ready for love. This week we have the longest night of our year, December 21st. There is more literal darkness this time of year than there is any other time of year. And wars are raging, contentious elections are coming back around, income inequality, unjust laws creating unjust situations, hunger, greed, hatred, and phobias, just to name a few. We are in dark times. But what can't be taken from us is our joy. Joy is the tool that has liberated community after community and people after people over and over again. Joy frees us from the voices in our world that tells us that we are not enough. Joy liberates us from the oppression in our world because while darkness can take a lot from us, it cannot take what God has given us, our humanity. It cannot cut out that spark that God gave us all. Darkness cannot separate us from God's love. So sing. Even in the darkness, sing joyfully. Even those really, really stupid carols that you don't like and have no meaning. Because the Beach Boys are going to sing, Christmas comes this time each year. Christmas comes this time each year. It's silly, but sing of joy because that is the bright light in this dark times. Sing of joy because Jesus is about to be born. And that joy is a glorious feeling. Amen.